So you have a skill set that most investors would pay money for. You know how to question data, filter out the noise, and remove bias from your day job. And to be honest, most people invest based on pure vibes, whether it's a headline, whether it's just a gut feeling. But here's the great thing about it. You don't have to. So this video is not going to be about financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. However, I'm just a senior data analyst that has used his skill set to be able to pick better investments that have outpaced the overall S&P 500. And I'm gonna be sharing those tips with you today. Let's get into it. So if you're new, my name is Azo. I'm currently a senior data analyst. I've been in data analytics for 4 years at this point, and this is a topic I love to speak about, and it's the stock market. I've been passionate about the stock market ever since I kind of got my first corporate job, when I first got my 401k packet, and I didn't know what the hell they wanted me to invest in. So that sparked my interest into learning about the stock market. And ever since then, I've been outpacing the market. So in this video, I'm gonna get into how these data analyst skills actually help me on a day-to-day when I'm analyzing these companies and getting the best possible return on my money. So the first thing that we do as data analysts is we always have to define the question first. The key thing about investing is having a plan for not only your overall portfolio, but also for each stock that you invest in. This is very important. Buying a great stock at an overvalued price means you still bought a great stock, but it just costs way too much. So the first things you want to do in order to set your plan is ask yourself these questions. What type of return do I need? Obviously, you're gonna say the most that it can be, and I get it, but there's other things you need to factor in, like what is your risk tolerance? If you put $1,000 into a stock, are you willing to see that go completely because this stock is risky and it has higher potential? These are things you have to ask yourself. You also have to understand what time horizon are you looking to invest in this stock or invest over time. You need to have a plan. If you're looking for a video that's going to teach you how to trade in and out of stocks, that is not this video. This is more for a mid to long term buy and hold strategy, which usually is the best for long-term gains. So you may need to make a really detailed plan and not something just like grow my money, because in that case you could just put it in a high yield savings and it'll get 3 to 4%, and technically that's growing your money. I don't know what inflation rates are, but that's a very possible option. So the next thing is going to be understanding what is actual signal and what is noise. A lot of headlines you'll see, a lot of videos you'll see out there just have these flashy headlines about this stock is going to the moon, this stock is going into the toilet. Stock market investing can be very noisy, but as a data analyst, this is where you have the advantage. We're used to filtering out noise in our data and in our analysis. So this sets us up perfectly to be able to do this and make money from it. So the things you want to look for when investing, there's plenty of things here, but essentially things come down to 2 things, and it's the price of the stock and it's the intrinsic value, or what the stock is actually worth. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's use something as boring as there's a book over there. So if I told you that book was worth $100,000, if you bought that book right there, it's worth $100,000, you'd probably say, no freaking way I'm buying a book for $100,000. But however, what if I told you that that book had a credit card in it? This is such a random thing that I'm just coming up on the spot, with $500,000 in it, and it is going to give you $500,000 if you buy the book. I arbitrarily increased the value of the book, so now that $100,000 makes it worth it, right? The stock market really comes down to 2 things, and it's the actual stock price, which is determined by traders or, investors buying and selling the stock. That's what moves the stock price itself. That, in a way, can be independent of the intrinsic value of the stock. What do I mean by intrinsic value? If I bought the company as a whole with all of its assets, debt, and all of that, and kind of took everything out and put it down to a share price, it's worth a specific dollar amount that, depending on how you do it, will give you a number. So for example, a stock could be trading at $70, but you go through your analysis and you find the intrinsic value is actually at 40. Those can be two different things. What we want to look for is companies that their intrinsic value is higher than what they're actually trading at. That is what we call a mismatch in the market, and those are the things you want to look for. So the next thing, like we do as data analysts, is we define our KPIs. So this is where you kind of want to build out and extend your plan even further. You want to give some context here. So you want to understand what type of allocation you are providing in these stocks based on risk level, based on actual dollar value, percentage wise, whatever that may be that fits your specific needs and wants. And you want to stick to a plan for the long term, no matter what happens. Once you've done your due diligence, you define what price you want to buy something at, where it's going, and when you think it's getting there. At that point, you know when and how much to allocate each and every time to a given stock. All right, so the next thing is you want to read company financials like they are a data document, or you are writing a document about your findings or your analysis. So let me get into this. Things like investor relations reports, 10K statements, and earnings reports, and even conference calls. So the same skills apply. What type of story is this document or statement trying to tell? Or if it's a conference call, what is the CEO saying about the company? What adds up? What doesn't add up? Are they just spitting out fluff, or are they genuinely being able to execute time and time again on what they're saying? So these are some things to watch for. What metrics are front and center and why? What's the time frame for these metrics, and were they cherry picked? So what do I mean? Were these specific windows and times that these specific things were added? Pay attention to that, because there may be a reason. They may be showing you the good and hiding the bad, and that's a telltale sign. And the next thing is, what is the denominator? If you're 40% on a dollar, 40% on $1 million, very different in how the business is actually growing. Everything has to be within context. Is this company profitable, or are they bleeding money? Your revenues can increase year over year, but that doesn't mean your expenses don't as well. So these are some of the things that you want to keep in context. But as a data analyst, this puts you in perfect position to spot things like this out. So the next thing is you want to write an investment thesis. The same way that you would write out kind of a recommendation on the data, that you have some assumptions, some things that, you know, to look for in the future, and kind of write this out about every position that you hold. You have to put things in there like, what do you currently believe, and what would actually change your mind about this stock given that something happens to it? If there is a recession in the overall economy, does that change your mind about the stock, and why does that change your mind about the stock? So now this is just an overview and some key takeaways of how you can use your data analyst skills to actually give you an advantage in the stock market. If you want another in-depth video, then just leave me a comment and let me know. Like this video. This was kind of an experimental video of something that I really like, and trying to tie it into the frame of a data analyst, which really did help me kind of see these companies for what they were through the skills that I built as a data analyst. So I hope you find value in this type of content, because I love speaking about it. But if you don't, it's fine. Love, peace, and chicken grease.